Yo, what up guys, it's Flark and welcome to my Shadowlands Season 4 Healers star rating review, where I go through the 6 healing specializations and give them a star rating based on how I think they're going to perform in the upcoming season. So hopefully that's a good visual representation of where I think everything stands, and hopefully you guys agree with me. But if you don't, leave a comment below and tell me exactly what you feel. I will read every single one, I promise. But getting right into it, we're going to start with Restoration Druid. 5 stars. This spec should always be a 5-star spec. It's just got the healing toolkit that works just so well. Even when it's bad in the right hands, it's good. I mean, players like Gillycell take this spec, and no matter how the overall perception of it is, it still feels like a rank 1 spec in their hands because it's got CC, it's got clone, it's got hots, it's got burst healing, it's got mobility, it can get drinks, it can get re-stealths. It has a toolkit that really lends to being a good healer in a lot of different comps, and I think this season is going to be no exception for all those reasons. It's just got that toolkit to keep its team alive while disrupting the other team and being slippery enough to be hard to disrupt itself. Not to mention it's immune to polymorph and hex when it shifts. So it just has that good disruption, self-sustain, ally sustain toolkit where it kind of feels like when you're queuing into an Druid, you're like, oh, this is going to be hard to land a kill on anybody. It's got that good dampener feel too. So now that I think spell cleaves are going to be a lot better and dampening might be a little bit more prominent, Druid, boom, just rockets to the absolute top of the healers. In fact, again, I give an honorary 6-star to each spec of each list, melee, ranged, and now healers. So Druid would be my 6 stars for sure. It's just got that perfect wizard cleave toolkit, and it still does fine healing melee cleaves and hybrids. So it's really got it all. It's really because of that slipperiness, which allows it to go in for CC when it needs to, or play defensive when it needs to, get a re-stealth, get a drink. And it's got it all, and I think that's going to really show once everybody gets fully geared and the meta slows down. You're going to see a lot more Druids, and you're going to be like, wow, how do I kill anything on this team? Even their mana management, while struggling to heal multiple targets if you swap back and forth, again, is fixed by the ability to get drinks. So kind of no weaknesses on the spec. And while that seems silly because all we saw was Holy Priest last season, things are about to change. And I think in about 7 weeks, you guys will say, holy cow, what are the weaknesses of our Druid? Moving on to Restoration Shaman, 5 stars. Fantastic spec this season, and here's why. First, they gave it a chain heal buff. That's going to be great for healing against cleaves when everything cleaves. You got Earthen, you've got Ascendance, you've got big chain heals spamming out from every totem you press. That's going to be a fantastic answer. But they already do very well into casters, namely Warlocks. And if you've seen my other video on casters, link in the description below, Warlocks should be extremely prominent. Why is that? Well, ground, sheer, tremor. Tremor for fears, sheer for the big casts, and ground for all their other CC. I mean, that's an impressive toolkit for a healer to have to disrupt the enemy team. Remember, if you're a demo lock and you're queuing and maybe you're playing a hybrid, so you're the only caster on the team, their melee or their DPS are going to be focusing everything on shutting you down. So when you finally get everything out of them, now the healer shuts you down? I mean, that's brutal, right? Whenever I played it with a caster, and I played with a lot of demos last season, they're like, oh my god, in our Shaman we lose. And of course, that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but you can understand the fear that strikes their heart. Anytime they queue into a melee cleave with an R Shaman, how are they ever going to cast a spell? How are they ever going to land a fear? How are they ever going to get any CC? So R Shaman doing great into the Aflocks that I think are going to be so much more prominent, and just great into wizards in general, and can even play with them. Because he had solid single target healing, good AoE healing, probably more of a cleave healer, maybe a hybrid healer. DK Demo R Shaman could be really good this season. But it's just a very overall good spec. And as long as they can pump enough mastery from secondary stats with the increase to secondary stats this season, their single target healing should be enough to keep people alive through a more sustained, focused meta. Again, if Ret Warrior is less popular, then R Shaman should be more popular, as there's nothing to just run over their team anymore, as you know from Ret Warrior's single target burst. So R Shaman, 5 stars. I really do think that. Moving on to Mistweaver, 4 stars. But man, that's hard to not give them 5 too. They also heal wizards pretty well, but instead of like the sustain pressure, healing, disruption mix that our Shaman and our Druid brought, where they have like CC and sheer grounding, all that hex and all that stuff. Mistweaver just has the highest throughput in the game. If you are channeling casts with Soothing Mist as a Mistweaver, nobody on that you're targeting with that is dying. You are just bombing a torrent of absolutely obscene healing directly into their forehead. The problem with Mistweaver is that, kick that or CC it. They have more answers nowadays with Revival and being able to port stuns. And of course, they have good mobility, so they can get line, top their team, get line, top their team. But again, a long lockout from a Warlock, 6 seconds, or maybe a decent CC chain all instant from like a Shadow Priest, maybe stun silence from a Unholy DK, or of course a Rogue Mage Go. You know how good they are at CCing, and Mistweaver struggles into that. So while they can truly be the highest output overall in the game, is sometimes they just get disrupted long enough where they can't do any output overall over the whole game. And Rogue Mage obviously is very, very good at doing that. So I'm going to keep them down at the 4-star mark, but watch for that. If things really do slow down, Mistweaver will do very, very good, because it would be very hard to kill anybody on their team. Their output is so high. Moving on to Holy Priest, and this is probably going to be the most sadistic pleasure I ever derive out of doing one of these star rating reviews, but 3 stars. Finally, we can all breathe a sigh of relief. I do believe all the compounding nerfs have really hit home in this season. Their healing was nerfed, their mana was nerfed, their fade is nerfed, which means all of their toolkit for staying alive got nerfed, and they're going to have to be bombing and casting more heals, which means they could either A, get kicked on it, and then they're doomed, B, get CC'd on it, and then they're doomed, or C, just have to heal so much that they go Because if their healing does less and their mana regeneration is less, then they have to do more healing, but with less mana regeneration and more healing done, it's compounding, and they go and then they can't do anything. And they're even a kill target now, because they may still have res legendary, but a 1-minute fade. I mean, that was their biggest answer. They traded fade for every go that you could ever muster, and that's why they didn't die. But if they can't do that anymore, and they can't get cast off in your face, they're finally susceptible to both A, running out of mana, or B, dying. I mean, it's incredible. Holy Priest might not be 30% of healer representation anymore, 35%, 50% in AWC. I think we finally are moving away from just seeing that every single game. And that's good. Because, okay, Holy Priest was bad for a long time, and it was interesting to see something new. But the problem is, if you go from having 0% representation to 50% representation, that's not a good change. You want everything to be even. And while we hadn't seen Holy Priest in a while, seeing it every single game always was not a good solution to that. So finally, all the compounding nerfs should make Holy Priest in a worse spot, as they do get run over by that sustained damage and run out of mana quickly enough that you can find a kill pretty easily against any player on their team. 3 stars. Then we have Disc. 5 stars. Takes over the priest healing role. I really don't think it was bad last season at all. It's just, why would you play Disc when you could play Holy? Sure, they have weaknesses, but Disc has always had some pretty punishable weaknesses, but the comps they play do a great job of alleviating those weaknesses. They play RMP and jungle, comps that do something so well that the weaknesses are kind of ignored. How Disc Priest can kind of go, they don't do that much healing when they have to channel, like cast into you, like Shadowman. Those don't do anything. So they have to stay up and snowball pressure, right? And I feel like that's a good take on Disc, because that's what they do. They stay ahead and they snowball pressure and they put you behind. They got Purge, they got Damage, maybe Mind Games, maybe Night Fae, Penance, big penance heals to full, big penances for damage. They have a great atonement healing. They have a great way to keep things going in your direction as long as you start off in your direction. And what are the 2 best comps for that? Jungle, RMP. RMP literally opens from stealth, and the game is already a winning situation for them. So the Disc just keeps piling on that pressure. Jungle, kind of the same thing. Opens from stealth, Sickle the Lion, and the enemy team is already on the back foot, right? So very, very difficult for comps to recover against the disc version of those. Holy was just way too good for anybody to even bother playing it, but I think disc perfectly steps into that spot in those comps, and while it doesn't heal cleaves as well as Holy did, it doesn't matter. RMP and jungle, 2 quad S tier comps, and you've got a 5-star spec, so see a lot more discs around. They might even be able to heal cleaves, depending on if they have a hybrid on them. Maybe Turbo with a disc, maybe Rat Warrior with a disc. Actually, I don't think Turbo with the disc is outlandish at all. So, 5 stars. Finally, we have Holy Paladin. 3 stars. I don't see anything that Holy Paladin can do that the other healers can't all do better. HPAL has a big AoE burst heal, so it's really good against healing through burst, but all the burst in the game got nerfed and the sustain got a lot better, something they struggle with, because even when you leave an HPAL to do whatever, like when you left a Mistweaver to do whatever, it bombed heals into the target, topped it instantly, and continued to top it. HPAL doesn't really do that. HPAL has its instant cast that will top you regardless if they are susceptible to being kicked or not, but once they're just casting Flash of Lights, does nothing. They're not. It doesn't really matter. You can take the HPAL out of the game, and if you don't take the HPAL out of the game when you finally can't, they have to recover with Flash of Light. They're not recovering there. So, furthermore, they have Hodge, but their CC toolkit is probably still worse than the other casters, the other healers rather. And what do they have for like an offensive toolkit? They don't have Purge, Ground, Shear. They don't have MD. They don't have good follow-up CC without being on a long cooldown. It's very difficult to find a point where HPAL is better than any of the other healers at anything. So especially since its healing is all tied to wings. Once they're out of wings, if they don't get a wings proc, they literally cannot top anybody. And in a meta this sustain, all you do is do a bunch of damage, get their wings, then continue doing a bunch of damage. And they're like, oh, okay, well, Flash of Light you for 11 thou. Are you fine? No? Alrighty then, right? So HPAL, not looking great this season. And I think it's going to be our other 3-star spec. So short video, of course, there's only 6 healer specializations, but what did you think? Anything you totally disagree with? These are a little bit more polarizing than my other star rating reviews. So maybe you guys really think that I missed the mark, overvalued or undervalued a healer too drastically. I'd love to hear in the comments below what you guys think. And thank you so much for watching. If you guys like this little series, I'm going to try and do it every season. I'll try and use these star rating reviews for more things in the future. And thank you so much for watching. Peace.